Attorney looks at these diamonds. He goes, Stanley, what is this, zirconium? He goes, those are real diamonds. And then you know that grin you get on your face when you do something mischievous as a kid? And you just have to tell one of your buddies about it? Something sneaky? Well, Stanley, assuming he had attorney-client privilege, meaning when you talk to your attorney it's confidential, he told his attorney how he defrauded the bank. That afternoon, the lawyer went straight to the FBI in Los Angeles and told them the same story. FBI calls the bank. Bank says they're not aware of any fraud, but they'll investigate. Eventually, Stanley became a fugitive because they caught up with him. I've been there, done that. It's not a fun thing to do, but that's a story for another day. So the feds tracked down Stanley to a friend's house in San Diego, California. And around 6 a.m. one morning, boom, boom, boom on the front door of his friend's apartment. His friend opens the door. How can I help you? Because he kind of jolted him out of his sleep. Is Stanley Mark Rifkin here? No, I haven't seen him in years. Then one of the agents tells this guy the criminal and civil penalties for harboring a federal fugitive. All of a sudden, oh, Stanley's right in, go right in here, come on in. So they found Stanley hiding in the back. They found the diamonds. And fortunately for the bank, the diamonds went up in value, so they made a profit. And then Stanley was let out on bail, pending his trial. So an undercover FBI operative befriended Stanley, and they both conspired to do the same fraud against a different bank. Stanley didn't know it was undercover FBI, was arrested twice for the same crime. He ended up getting sentenced to 8 years in federal custody, was released in 3, and I don't know what Stanley is doing nowadays. But what Stanley did is he used the same skills and techniques that identity thieves and hackers use, called the art of deception. And this is what my presentation is about today. It's about social engineering. And what social engineering is, it's a form of hacking that uses influence, deception, and psychological manipulation to convince a person to either release information or to do some action that benefits the attacker, or the hacker in this case. And you can have the best technologies that money can buy, right? You could have the best firewalls, intrusion detection systems. Here's, very popular, like this RSA secure ID tokens, right? You could have all this technology companies spend thousands of dollars on. Yeah, if I can call one person inside a company and manipulate them, it bypasses all the technology. So now that I'm a hacker that's become a security consultant, right, I see a lot of people, a lot of businesses out there that only focus on the technology, right? They don't focus on the people or the processes. So where do the hackers go? After the low-hanging fruit, because it's easier to attack. So when I'm speaking for corporations about the subject, I try to encourage them to have a meaningful and effective security program. You need to think about technology, processes, and people. And only by a combination of all three can you really reduce the threat. So, why do hackers use social engineering? Because it's easier than hacking a system or exploiting a technical vulnerability. Unless you could download exploit code from Milward, then maybe that's easier. But if the truth be known, most of the attacks are hybrid, meaning that the hacker uses social engineering when it's expedient and exploits a technical vulnerability and combines it. Now mind you, I don't know how many of you know of Milworm. That's a site that posts exploit code. But usually that's for a particular operating system running in a particular environment, maybe at a particular service pack level, maybe if only certain binaries exist on the system or certain packages are installed. So it's sometimes work to get that exploit working for the environment that you want to attack. It's much easier for the hacker to make a telephone call, to send an email, to gain access, to those systems. Social engineering evades every intrusion detection system on the market. If any of you know of any, I'd like to know. Right? It's free or low cost. Why? Because the attacker is sending an email, which is free, or they're calling on your company's toll-free number, so the company's paying for the call. It's low risk because nobody protects themselves against this type of attack. It works on every OS system platform, right? Ubuntu, Leopard, Windows, it doesn't matter. There are no logs. There's no audit trail. It's about 99.9% effective. What was it? About 2 years ago, I was invited to a conference in the States, and a CIO of a major bank invited me to lunch, and she told me that she put her employees through this like intensive security awareness training program, specifically about the threat of social engineering. A month later, she hires another company to test her people. It took 11 phone calls before that company was able to break into the bank's network just using social engineering. But everyone here knows the most important thing, right? You still can't go to Windows Update and download a patch for stupidity, can you? No, right? But who is the real problem? It's the users, right? There's a conference out of the UK called the Info Security Conference, and every year they go to London's Waterloo Station, the train station, and they go with gifts. A couple years ago, they went with boxes of free pens, and they would offer people a free pen in exchange for their password. How many people do you think applied? 9 out of 10. Mind you know if it's a real password, who knows? But probably people couldn't care less because they figured, well, this person doesn't know me. 9 out of 10. So the next year, they went back to London's Waterloo Station, and they went with chocolate Easter eggs. Same thing, 7 out of 10 complied. This last conference they changed tax. They decided they wanted to get